Hello, and welcome to Collaboratory, the show where Mike Morris improvises an animatic with a little help from our audience, and we learn about the craft of storyboarding along the way. This is an improv art stream that runs on audience suggestions. Mike, hi. What kinds of prompts are we looking for today from the audience?
All right, as ever, we are looking for the 3 building blocks of any story: character, setting, and conflict. So we try to keep the character count down a little bit because, again, this is only a 90-minute stream. And so we don't want to be like, hundreds of characters in. But a setting and a conflict is what we need for those characters. So get on your most creative thinking cap or whatever you want to call it, and let's start some drawing, huh? So, Aaron, I want to say Aaron Paetz is returned again for his yearly visit to the Collaboratory.
Yeah, I love it
Aaron,
here.
I love to be the returning guest host.
I absolutely feel privileged to be here again. It's so fun. It's so fun to share everything that I know about storyboarding and to see how you storyboard. I mean, there's always something new to learn, and there's always something that I could that you can teach me, or and also just to hear from the audience and kind of see what things they're interested in and what kind of wacky ideas they come up with. Is always fun to see, Well,
I think let's talk about creativity for a second, because obviously most of us live in a very hyper media environment, right? We're watching shows, we're watching, playing video games. We were just talking about playing games earlier today. So how do you personally keep your creative wellspring bubbling up?
Oh my goodness. I suppose really watching stuff, playing video games, of course. I think the best thing to do personally is just keep drawing even if I'm not in the mood. So I don't know. A lot of it, you know, if I only did my drawing when I was completely inspired and feeling so passionate, then I feel like that I would miss a lot of opportunities to
Yeah.
do that. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, like I'll draw even though I'm not in the mood. And it actually doing that keeps me even more creative because I find something that I didn't know existed inside of me. I come up with some new character or concept or environment that I wouldn't have thought of if I was necessarily only in one mood whenever I drew, you know? So,
Right. Sometimes I think it is about getting the, just like, for lack of a better term, the motor warmed up, you know?
yeah.
But I feel like if I get too into different media and stuff, I feel like somehow it like blunts my creativity outside of like just drawing from lived experience. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, sometimes just drawing people, you know, and going to the mall and drawing just random people walking around, like all that kind of stuff's great. But I really like getting into stuff that is outside of reality, you know, and
oh
I
yeah, for sure.
don't I don't find myself doing that as much if I'm just you know, like drawing my daughters or you
Right,
know, going to the mall and drawing. Like I really have to sit down by myself and think, okay, I want to draw a dragon and like I don't know, I can't just snap my fingers and there's a dragon. I have certain problems that I have to overcome to
right,
make that happen. You know, it's like what angle, what kind of dragon, what's the pose? Like there's all these
right,
problems that you immediately create. Like that's part of the creation process. Like first you have an idea and then you have to make it happen, but you're most likely not going to get it right in the first shot. So you just got to like work through it. And as you work through it, you kind of leave this trail behind you of all these
yeah,
concepts and iterations that you might even go back on and say, well, that was cool. Like maybe I'm going to expand upon that concept and kind of like branch off maybe or something.
yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that you bring up a good point too is just sort of staying at it. I think, you know, kind of like as a society as a whole, we're like so into that like instant result, you know?
Oh, it's so hard. Yeah.
And especially now that we have, you know, all of these AI gens and stuff like that, you're like, I just want to see this, and then boom, it's right there. Or, you know, things like that. It kind of makes it a little bit difficult to keep that focus, keep
Yeah.
that energy going on. Which I think, you know, that comes down to just learning how to be a disciplined artist, um, which is kind of a more difficult thing because, you know, a lot of times I feel like we're so inundated with just the swiftness of life that it's hard to just take a moment and have that sort of introspective artistic look at things like, well, I want to do this piece of art that says this thing, you know, like
Yeah, or like even something you're interested in, like certain compositions or angles, or like sometimes I just find I don't really care about anything else. I just want to figure out how to draw something really far in the foreground and something really far in the background, you know. And then the actual thing that I'm drawing, like for example, the dragon and the knight, that's kind of just you put those into the concept of, oh, I want something with a lot of depth, like so.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Do you ever do you ever do like the directional line compositions?
uh what like a
So like you know, I'm
thirds?
gonna zoom out here a little bit because I feel like a lot of the time it helps
Well,
when you do this kind of
well,
thing.
we
But
did
like
get a
saying,
comment from one of our viewers, and
oh
I
yeah,
think I should bring it up real quick. Yeah, we just
okay,
got it in from Neela Sprowley. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Is recommending a hunter in a mushroom forest. Oh my goodness, it sounds like a gloomstalker. hunter
Oh
in a mushroom
snap,
forest,
dude!
trying to catch mushroomy monster guys. Sounds
Mike
like
and it.
somebody playing that new Avowed game, huh? That's what it looks
So
like.
we got some like a hunter versus some myconids, or it sounds like some
Yeah.
various. So what's the conflict? Why is the hunter hunting?
Uh, to
So you got a
catch
setting in the
mushroomy
mushroom
monster
forest.
guys, probably for crafting supplies. Trying to find the loot.
This is like a monster hunter situation where they're just like, this is just for the parts. I'm gonna kill this thing and skin it. And
Yeah, I mean that hasn't come up in chat yet. What it's for, but I would imagine. I think it's cool. I would love to see your take on a hunter in a mushroom forest to start, and then maybe uh, the story will come from that. But yeah, what would the so that's funny because I was just talking to you earlier before the stream started about how I was playing a Gloomstalker assassin ranger, and that's kind of like the hunter, in a mushroom forest. It reminds me the myconids and the underdark and all that stuff.
yeah,
Uh, Sometimes you just got to get it out, huh, Mike? And you're coming up with this really cool face. Let's see. What kind of things do you think define a hunter?
patience.
Patience. Oh, I guess that does make sense. I was like, are you telling me to have patience? Or are you talking?
No, hunters
No,
are very patient people.
Yeah, they have to wait for the
I mean,
for the
especially okay.
mushroom.
So there's hunting and then there's hunting. You know what I mean? And I say that in a different way. Like, so there are people that go out into the absolute wilds, and they live out there and they stalk prey, and they some of those people that go out elk hunting or deer hunting or something, that you hear stories about them, and they'll stalk something for days on end
Yeah.
until the time is right. A lot of them tend to be like bow hunters and that kind of thing. I think even in this shot we can get something kind of like this.
I like the mushroom forest, the myconid forest or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's cool. So let's start this with something like a little bit higher up, like somebody that's crouching. And again, we're not going to spend time on pretty drawings. We talked about this in the Collaboratory before, that a lot of time the drawings that we do here are not going to be pretty, but they're going to be storytelling drawings.
You were just talking also before the stream about brushes. Is this just your favorite brush, like a tapered black vector brush? Is that what you love?
I feel like it's just quick. Like, I tend to like a little bit of texture in my brushes, but yeah, I say like don't do pretty drawings and then I proceed to try and pretty up the drawing. Yeah, I'm a little hypocritical maybe. Okay, so let's.
It's the thought that counts. I'm sure you can make. I mean, I've seen you make drawings way prettier in terms of like. I mean, your drawing looks cool, but it's not like you're throwing tone down on it and stuff yet, So
yeah,
you're good, man.
So let's get a bigger brush. I feel like I need just a slightly bigger brush. But yeah, I think hunters often are very patient. They're very stoic people, and they don't move unless they have to. Sometimes I'll like listen to like stories about history, because I realized one day because we talked about this earlier too, is like I really love that whole the fantasy genre, and talking about ancient civilizations that never existed, Lord of the Rings stuff and all that.
Yeah.
I realized though one day that I knew more about fake history than I knew about real history.
Like
So
lore. You're just a lore. Like,
I started listening to various podcasts and different things about history and World War II and some of the stuff in there. And there was a Finnish sniper that they called the White Death.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, his I can't remember his name. It was a really cool Finnish name, but this guy was, they had the Russians were invading Finland, right? And the Finnish were defending their country, and this guy like was a 5'0" like harbinger of doom.
Oh my goodness. He's just so small. He can hide everywhere.
He would like eat snow and keep his mouth cold so no one would see breath.
Wow.
Like, he would freeze the terrain around him so it was ice instead of snow, so there was no crunching. Like, no one could see him. You couldn't tell where he came from. All you know is that, like, all of a sudden the dude next to you was gone.
Oh my gosh.
He was an actual hunter.
Wow.
So I think that, like, those kind of people, they're patient, they're wily, and they are extraordinarily tough. Like, people, like legit hunters.
So we got another viewer. Late Night Creativity is coming up with some suggestions. I know we're already going on this hunter thing, so we'll have to work this out somehow. Conflict. Girl struggles to leave a dark spirit manipulating her to go into a dark realm. Boy with a white spirit tries to bring her to the light side. Setting is high school and then to a forest. And then also exchange student from a nomad clan studying art abroad. Wow, that's quite a big range of things. How should we work that out, Mike?
Well, I'm not sure if we can incorporate everything in there, but I think we might be able to do some of the spirit stuff.
Yeah, a girl struggling. Girl struggles to leave a dark spirit manipulating her to go into a dark realm. Portal might be cool or something. So it's like a mushroom forest.
I think we might already be in the dark realm.
Yeah.
I think the dark realm done happened in here. And I think that, we're probably in this, I would say if you're going to be in like a fungal forest, it's almost like there's a huge canopy or something like that you're underneath, or like, trees or different like structures that grow underground. Even I think we should even take him off this tree branch and have it be some sort of more of a fungal growth.
Yeah, definitely.
Some sort of weird.
That sounds cool. Or just like a big mushroom or something.
Or
a mushroom like that grows on the side of a wall. Yeah.
Outcropping kind of a thing, with like other little fungal deals, like the bioluminescent things
that you're talking
will grow.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
That's the stuff. The spores.
So maybe he's not even this glowing. Big. Maybe he's even smaller than this, and we can get that sort of more of a feeling of it being an epic kind of deal.
It reminds me, this concept, as far as animation goes, reminds me of Nausicaa. The beginning of Nausicaa, where she's in that cave, and there's, I don't know. Have you seen that? I imagine you've seen it.
It's been a while since I've seen the Valley of the Wind. Yeah,
it's really cool. But, yeah, it's like this kind of vibe. It's really neat stuff. The hardest part for me about boarding a new sequence is always that my mind like works a lot faster than my hand. So it's kind of like
Oh, for
you
sure.
could have a million cool ideas, but because you could only do so much with your hands, like that's kind of where the bottleneck is. You have to like pick a certain thing, you know,
Yeah.
like and stick with it.
Sometimes too, if you just like shift a character over a little bit and then change one thing, like he's gonna reach behind him real quick and grab like um, I think a grappling hook might be kind of cool to have
Oh
him
yeah.
go from one spot to another. I think maybe even we can do something where let's put this character on a different level. We're gonna cut that and let's put him on level B. So we're gonna go back to these other areas here.
So you have a background layer there.
Yeah, because I think a shared drawing might be appropriate here. Shared
For the
drawings are really
background,
really helpful when
are
you're
you talking
doing
about for the background layer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna right click on this layer here and go share drawing, and then copy the selected layers and go to these other ones. I'm gonna shift click, and then I'm gonna go layer, paste layer special, and it's gonna ask me what I want to do. I'm gonna do once hold instead of loop or ping pong or once, because once hold means I'm gonna do this one and the subsequent layers behind it. I'll override existing layers with the same name, and place layers at the bottom doesn't really matter if you're doing it all on layers with the same name. Okay, so now I have a shared drawing. So whatever I update on any of these is going to update the entire total. So I'm going to grab like a little, like one of my marker brushes right here, and I'm just going to add some like, darker tone down here so we can get kind of a feeling of what this place is
That's like your background painting, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, it looks like I didn't have my back painting turned on, so I'm just gonna cut and paste that. But if you notice now, all of them have that same sort of thing, and then I can put some other stuff just on that layer inherently. So
Yeah, that shared layer thing is such a cool feature with Toon Boom, and being
yeah,
able to use the texture brushes on it and everything, and just like even if you came back to it later, you could modify just one background on the fly. Like, oh, I just want to like add this, detail in the background, and then it just updates it on your whole entire storyboard, wherever you use that background.
for sure. And let's do this on like a little overlay right here too. I'm gonna go for layer A, and then I'm gonna copy that selected layer. And again, let's repeat that action. I'm gonna come over to here to layer, paste layer special, and then once hold and okay. And now I'm gonna put a couple of like little foreground element mushrooms here too. So let's go back to the basic board brush. Let's do black. And then we'll put some like, some foreground fungal elements down here too. So we can see like this is populated with different growths and things like that. And we can even do this sort of thing where we turn on our draw behind and fill layers, so we can just sort of trace the outline of this and it automatically fills.
It's so cool.
Like, when this feature came out a couple of editions ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best. It saves so much time. But you have to make sure that you close the line. Like I didn't close the line before.
There's so many different features. It's almost like everybody has a different method, you know? Like I do similar things, but I don't actually use that tool. I use the autofill thing, but it's basically the same concept of like what we do,
Yeah. And then if I want to add like a little bit of a glow to it or something like that, I can just get like one of these soft brushes. You find one really quick. Like here, this one's called Blush. This one does pretty well. And I'll turn the draw behind on. I don't want to do the fill because then it leaves kind of a weird block. It's not soft anymore. So I'm going to add this little, kind of a texture right here behind these things, so we feel like we have like a glowing mushroom sort of situation. And getting into some of these other brushes and things too, you can do a lot of other little effects and things like that too. Like let's see, I have one that I use.
That's one of the coolest, like the mushroom place. Now, Mike, I don't know if you ever played that game, Baldur's Gate 3, but there's an Underdark with the mushroom with a myconid colony, and they have these glowing mushrooms, and it's like visually such a cool environment. It's really exciting to see you working this stuff out in a storyboard.
Yeah, I know I have somewhere in here like a scatter brush to do like effects that are like stars and things like that, but I just changed this around, so I'm not sure exactly where it is. But anyways, if we had more time, I would put like little, spores or something like that are on this. But let's just keep going, shall we?
Yeah, let's do story.
So let's.
Are we going to add another element?
Huh?
Are we going to add another element, like the girl struggling to leave a dark spirit manipulating her?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's what he's hunting is the dark spirit. Because
and the girl could be kind of like, right.
He doesn't actually, he can be hunting more than just the darkness.
What about if it's a dark spirit? The dark spirit that's manipulating her could also kind of have myconids around. I don't know. Maybe it's a myconid, like, let me think here, warlock or something. I don't know. What do you think, man?
I don't know. Let's see how it turns out.
All right.
So he's got something of a grappling hook that he's going to take out because he doesn't want to touch any of the spores, right?
Hmm. Olivia Draws says, "How did I not know about these features? Thank you." You're welcome.
Well, Olivia, welcome to the stream and welcome to learning about those features, because it really helps quite a bit in your workflow. Like just making things faster, and as we all know, speed sometimes is just the name of the game.
Yeah, it's good to have those. Yeah, getting your stuff done fast is really great, for sure. And you'll find your favorites and stuff, like what things are, what buttons you really like to click and all that stuff. And Toon Boom also has, just in case anybody is unaware how deep it goes, they have a scripting section, so you can find scripts or make scripts where you can kind of like tell the program to automatically do certain things for you. I mean, it's not going to draw for you, but it'll do filling the whites into the elements of your backgrounds or your characters, or you could do toggling layers or renaming your layers and all that kind of stuff. And you could kind of program it to do this kind of stuff really fast for you. But that's pretty advanced. I would say the funnest part about it is just drawing and experimenting with the brushes and learning about story and composition and all that stuff. So, Mike, if you were to already be thinking about this, would you be aiming to do something in 2D or 3D? Like, what's your favorite?
I don't know, because I think that each has their own benefits, right?
Hmm.
I feel like you can get something down quicker in 2D because there's a lot less rigmarole that you have to go through. But then you have like the rigged characters where there's a lot of setup. But the benefit of that of setting stuff up with say like a harmony character is the fact that then you can reuse the rig and do more content with it, right? Like CG
Yeah.
and rigged animation is really good at reusing elements. I mean, why do you
Right.
think that we see all of the sequels for these movies, right? Is the
Well,
models
like,
are built. It's just
yeah.
the models are already done. So
So they just never go
you
away.
have
Like,
more story to go through, and it's cheaper to do in the sequels than it is redoing the thing the entire time. So like I think one of the reasons that we see a lot of sequels is just financial. We see that they've got all of the rigs built, like they've got you know Poe from Kung Fu Panda built and refined over several different movies, and so we keep seeing Kung Fu Panda movies, and I love those movies, but at the same time it's like, all right, what else you got?
yeah, you could. I mean, yeah, you got Trolls, you got Toy Story, you got all that stuff. They're just like, oh, we got the model already, for sure. I like
So I
the
mean,
ones
it's
that,
great to see more of the characters that you like, but at the same time, like I feel like the reliance on sequels can get a bit heavy-handed sometimes.
for sure, definitely. It's always cool to see those models go through changes and stuff, and that's part of what I like about Arcane is they'll put the certain characters in different costumes, or their story arc puts them into different situations where their model might change, their hair might change, their weapons could change, and it kind of brings a fresh look to the same old characters, you
Yeah,
know. But even that, it's only been 2 seasons, so uh, it's not to the point where it's Toy Story or Trolls or something where they're always reusing a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't. I haven't really. I know Toy Story does a lot. Maybe I don't have the most knowledge about Trolls, but it seems that way to me.
yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes it just comes down to what the corporate folks are saying, like
Yeah.
and because you hear about different stuff that's going on at studios and like projects that they have been developing, and oh, this person that we know got something greenlit or something like that, but you never really know what's going on and what happens in like the boardroom sort of stuff. I feel like as artists, a lot of times we aren't privy to those conversations, so we don't know like, oh well, this is going to rely on you know X investment being successful, or this is going to rely on you know the prequel making or the sequel that we did before making enough money to make the next one. There's a lot of factors that go into paying for
Yeah.
animation that a lot of the times we're just not thinking about, or we just plain don't see.
Yeah. It's not as it's not as a well-oiled machine as you would imagine. Coming up with an animated film or a show, there's a lot more than just an artist with it's not always just about being diehard passionate. Like sometimes it's like, all right, this is how much money we have, and that's there's not much you can do about that. If the budget's lower than you want, then you just got to kind of come up with a creative solution to make it still work.
And if you watch some of the like features and stuff for like one of the things that was really impressive to me is when Jorge Gutierrez talked about
Mhm.
some of the stuff that they did for the Book of Life, and
Yeah.
some of the shortcuts that they had to take for budget reasons. Not glamorous, but effective.
Yeah, but
You
that
know,
movie looked really cool. It didn't look like a low budget movie.
no, but there was elements that he talked about, like where they were able to save on some budget just because just creative use of existing assets.
I see.
So
All right.
we're gonna have some stuff going on at the upcoming Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario in a couple of months, and we've had panels before that we've talked about doing more production type work and things like that. That stuff that keeps the creative wheels going. And that's just as important as the art side sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it's really like you can't pay the bills unless you got somebody to produce the project,
Yeah.
It's really, it takes all sides of things. It really does.
And sometimes
All
there's
kinds of
people that
people.
are creative, but in a different way. Like,
Mhm.
you have your friends that want to be part of the animation that you work on or whatever like that, but they're not artists, so they don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, but maybe they're good at keeping people together and keeping them focused. Like,
Yeah, or like even like morale boosters, super important. People that boost morale in the team, and like sometimes even that could make artists 10 times more efficient. If you're
right.
on a show that's a slog, you're not going to get as much work done no matter how hard you try, but you get somebody around that's like very energetic and optimistic and excited, everybody benefits.
Yeah.
So
well, I think that it's necessary that we give a shout out to the late Daniel Ridger, otherwise known as the G-Man. Who was one of those guys who so Aaron and I worked on a show called Future Worm for Disney XD that our producer was like one of those people that was instrumental in keeping the morale like super high on the show, because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to do, and one of the things that kind of kept it going was this very energetic guy that helped keep the team like solidified together and kept us, going.
It made the shows. He made the show so much fun. He really did.
Really did.
Rest in peace. So yeah, I did get another comment here from Olivia Draws. She wants to know, well, I'm assuming a she, for the shared drawings, do those also work with 3D layers? Like, do they keep the same Z space value?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I would say experiment with it and find out. To like, as a cursory thing, I would say probably. But whether or not translation enters into that, besides sharing the actual, drawing itself, I don't know.
The 3D layers.
Thought about it.
3D layers are a whole nother side of things. I don't personally have a lot of experience with it. Like I said before, Toon Boom offers so many different ways of doing things. You'll find a lot of people working in it, and they have completely different workflows. And I might be a professional when it comes to using the program, and Mike is as well, but that's hardly makes me, a complete expert. I don't know a lot about 3D layers. You ever work with those, Mike?
Yes, I have. I think 3D layers are great. I've worked with them in a lot of ways. I think that you can get a lot of bang for your buck working with 3D layers, because especially like because I haven't really worked on a lot of like 3D shows, but when you do things that are more dramatic and you need like parallax type stuff, 3D layers are the way to go. Like if you're going to do it involving multiplane, The only thing is a lot of studios, they don't have the infrastructure to do that kind of thing because they don't necessarily stay in Storyboard Pro. They go to um, nonlinear editing systems.
Mhm.
But if you're an indie studio and you're just doing stuff on your own, like, why not, dude?
Yeah.
You don't need to hang on to convention that isn't necessary, right?
I totally want to learn more about. I've messed with it a little bit, the 3D layer stuff, but it seems like. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's a few different ways of doing it, but I made it where there was like multiplane. It was like putting a multiplane system inside of Toon Boom. So I had a foreground element, I had a middle ground, and a background with like a character stuck in there. And if I move the camera a little bit, it just kind of like everything slides like what you're talking about, parallax.
Yeah.
But I know there's a way also where you could go full 3D. I think there's a way where you
Yes.
do full 3D and you could put textures on 3D objects in Toon Boom and then
Yeah.
also draw on flat planes within that structure.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, that seems like a whole thing. I always just find myself getting frustrated and just like I'll just draw it. I'll just draw it.
Well, I mean, there's a certain automation that can happen that really makes things a lot more efficient in the long run. It's a trade-off between getting something set up to work in a certain way and then just powering through it.
Yeah.
It all depends on what kind of time that you can devote to something. What is going to be the most efficient use of your time, right? That's really what we're talking about here, is what is going to make something not only efficient to do, but editable. Because as we all know in boards, what's the one thing about boards that is never going to change? The fact that it changed.
What? Wait, what did you say?
Change is the thing that doesn't change in boards.
Oh, like it's sequential. It's a sequential art.
No, just the fact that it's gonna need to be revised.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like the only constant is change, right?
Yeah. And I do really love the whole, look of like Spider-Verse storyboards or something, where you get that camera that's moving around in a 3D space and you have the characters jumping towards the camera and the camera spins around and the background's like perfectly synced with it. It always looks so cool. So that is definitely something that I would be interested. I think they first did it, like bringing it way back. They did it first in something like Tarzan, when he's swinging, when he's sliding through those vines and stuff. And they were showing that off, or Beauty and the Beast when they're in this 3D background and they do the traditional animation on top of it. And it seemed like it took a whole studio to make those concepts come to life. And nowadays we can do it just on our own personal computer, like on one program. It's not like you have to go to some kind of like tech department just to say, hey, we just need this 3D environment built. You better call NASA or something. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, those things were very, very cutting edge tech back in the day. And, you have softwares. One of the things that's really interesting to me right now with Storyboard Pro that I haven't had as much time to delve into as I'd like to is the fact that you can bring in CG models, and there's like a cell shading thing that Storyboard Pro can do now. So like if you even learn a little bit about how to do some stuff in Blender, and then you can take those Blender models, bring them into Storyboard Pro, and use them in a very, very efficient way.
They're like, it is like static
Awesome.
stuff though, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I don't have the most experience here with this subject, but like if you bring in a car or a building or something like that,
Yeah.
I could see that working, but there's no rig. Is there rigs inside? I mean, that would seem like a lot.
Yes,
Just to
yes,
store them. There's
you can do
full
stuff
rigs?
with bones in it. Like you
Oh my
can bring
goodness, I had no
characters
idea.
with bones in it to manipulate inside the Storyboard Pro, and that is amazing to me because that kind of opens up a lot of different territory that you can cover.
Yeah. The artist Sora says, when you start off your boarding projects, what do you think is the most challenging step for you?
The most challenging step is to not go on to like default mode and just like, it's the thought process behind it. I think that's the most challenging thing, is to come up with something that's new, but that's also very descriptive and clear, but not feel like I'm just retreading ground every single time.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's always the blank canvas is so intimidating. And I know that's cliche to say, but because usually as far as work goes and getting a big script and you have a certain amount of work that you have to get done in a certain amount of time, it's always intimidating to start because there's this balance of, oh, am I going to make a mistake and I'm going to have to go back and fix it? Or should I know what I'm going to draw before I start drawing, or should I just start, And it always comes down to me to just starting. For me, it's like, all right, I just got to like draw something. I just got to draw something that is being asked of me on the scripts, and then kind of like say, all right, now I have an idea. I have a character or two and I have a setting, maybe just like what we're doing here, with the hunter and the Mike and the Nids and stuff. It's like character, setting, like just start drawing it. And then you could kind of go back as you draw and add other stuff. Like it's not a straight ahead process where you could only draw and then do the next drawing. It's like you could go back and add scenes in between, or go back into a scene and add new animate like actions, or even delete scenes, So it's always like this big malleable project. Like what Mike was saying, it's always changing,
Yeah.
So
it's evolving and it's
Yeah.
growing and it's being added upon. And because when I was working on DuckTales, you would see stuff come in and then things get revised, or sometimes it was a fairly rare occasion because we had really good a really good writing crew, and we had a really good directorial on that show, but there'd be sometimes an overhaul was necessary.
Yeah,
So-
and like being able to let go of things, and like for the purpose of the story, and saying, oh, I'm okay with these drawings being trash. It's not about the drawings as much as it's about the process, as much as it's about the story. I don't know. Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, it's about telling the story. That's what is really important. If the drawings are clear enough, it's about the storytelling.
Yeah. And that's hard. That was a hard lesson for me to learn as an artist, because, I think I was an artist. I mean, I definitely was an artist first all my life. I wasn't growing up drawing, superheroes thinking, oh, I'm doing storyboards. It was like, I'm just drawing cool stuff. And from there, it kind of was like, okay, well, I found work doing this thing that I like to do. And the work is called storyboarding. So eventually having to let go of this idea of like, oh, like my perfect style, my perfect like drawing, and oh, it needs to have this certain face, or this certain like, oh, it's this anime style I really like, and being able to say, okay, all that stuff is actually secondary to the story, and that's like kind of a designer's job to figure those things out. Like as a board artist, you just actually spelling out actions, you're spelling out story beats, camera moves, camera work. And it's not as much about doing, oh, this certain cool drawing style that you like. And it's really, I think that was really hard for me to let go of, but definitely animation as a whole it works best as a team process.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also good to be a very rounded out kind of person where you're able to switch gears between things. You're able to do a nice drawing every so often.
Yeah.
And you're not hamstringing yourself by saying, oh, I'm only a board artist, or I'm only this, or I'm only that. You can be more than one of those things. You can be an artist that can do the whole thing. You can make your own films. And I think now, and especially in this environment that we're seeing sort of this downturn in animation, and it's cyclical oftentimes.
Oh yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah.
You'll see big booms and you'll see slumps, and that's not uncommon. But I think it's incumbent upon people now, especially with the tools available, that you can make your own films, you can do your own stuff, and you don't need people's permission. You don't need a studio to pat you on the head and tell you you're awesome. You just need to make stuff. Like, I think that's one of the lessons that is really difficult to get is sometimes people aren't going to tell you that you're awesome and that you can do the work. But you should be telling yourself that you're awesome and you can do the work. Because like we were talking about, you've got the tools, you've got the talent. There's like the Ghostbusters. We got the tools, we got the talent, right? From Winston saying that. And you do. You have everything at your disposal, and you don't need anybody's permission. You don't need anybody to validate you. You just need to make stuff. And that's what's going to be the most powerful thing that you will encounter is you have everything within your power. Like, even if you don't have a license right now for Storyboard Pro to have it for the whole year, you can do something in 3 weeks. You can do something and make something
with a trial, yeah.
With the trial version, because the trial version is fully functional. You have the whole thing available to you for 3 weeks. So what can you make in 3 weeks? The tagline of this show oftentimes is, look what I can do in 90 minutes. What can you do in 3 weeks? But what can you do in 3 weeks? What can you make in 3 weeks? Can you board out your whole
make a whole film? Yeah,
can you write your script or like write out your beats and have everything beforehand prepared? So when you have your 3 week trial of Storyboard Pro, that you're like hitting the ground running and you've got everything ready to go, and then you're boarding the whole thing out. You've got an animatic in 3 weeks, and then you're going to take that to the next level. Maybe you can download the 3 week trial of Harmony, and in 6 weeks you've got your own short, and then you put it out on YouTube and make enough money to buy a subscription and make more stuff. Like, there's the sky's the limit for you guys.
I would say even on that point, like you can do a lot in Toon Boom. I mean, if you wanted to, Harmony's great, especially from what I understand for puppetry animation, but you can do a full-on color storyboard animatic with sound. Like, it's in Storyboard Pro. Like, you could record sound into Storyboard Pro. That's another cool feature. If you wanted to throw what we call it scratch audio down, so you just record your own voice saying something, you could just record it straight into Toon Boom Storyboard Pro. Yeah. And it's just a few clicks, so if you're like, all right, it might not be the final voice for the character, like, you don't have your favorite actor saying the line or whatever, but you can put your voice in for now, and you just record it straight into the audio line there. And it's kind of like the animatic is this big mock-up of like what you're planning on making. So they're not the final drawings, they're not the final audio, they're not the final character designs, it's not the final timing, because it's all going to go through other people. It'll go through an editor, it'll go through a audio specialist, or like a dialogue editor. It'll go through the design team, but as Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, as far as that goes, like you can make something that is very finished in Toon
you really
Boom.
can. You know, and the tools are there. The tools are powerful, and they're easy to use in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a learning curve to anything. Anything you do in the creative space, any new software that you learn is going to have something of a learning curve. But I feel like in the Toon Boom stuff, the barrier to entry is so low that you can just pick it up and kind of start going with it, even if it's just in the most simple ways. Like, you know, a lot of people don't realize that, we used, I say we, but the animation staff on Princess and the Frog used Storyboard or used Harmony to do all the color and stuff, and for Princess and the Frog, like you would see Harmony all over the place, and like I think they were using the Linux version, which I mean the version of operating system doesn't matter, but you know,
and at this point it's studio
on that movie.
At this point it's industry wide. I mean, we all the shows that I work on these days, every single one is Toon Boom, and it's actually something that I like ask when I'm going for a job. It's like, all right, you're using Toon Boom, right? Like that's what we're doing, right?
Well, I mean, it's so ubiquitous now with a lot of stuff, and you know, I've tried other things. I have, you know, like there was one storyboard that I did for a thing, and I had to use for like my restraint that I had to deal with was that I had to use this software that came with that particular bundle, and it was fine, but it took me like 5 times longer than it would have with Storyboard Pro, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening again.
Right? You're like, I have to do what to make what happen? Like,
yeah, it's like I have all these other steps that I've got to do, and I'm like, nuts to that, dude. I'm not doing that crap.
All right. The artist Sarah says, did you ever have times where you struggled to get the story across, and how do you overcome that? And Julio Torres, Julio probably says, these kings. Oh, these kings. That's us, Mike. I think he's talking about us.
Well, thank you, Julio. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Do you ever have time?
Patting of the ego is welcome every so often.
Yeah. Do you ever have times where you struggle to get the story across, and how do you overcome that? I guess hard work is not a very helpful answer.
You work through it. You work through it. You think about it. I mean, I don't know how many people are familiar with the word ponder, right? But pondering, I think, is one of the things that you sit down and you think about the problem, and you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I remember that I watched a while back the great Monty Python sketch comedy guy, John Cleese. He had a lecture that he did back in the day about creativity. And I think about that every so often, because it was very, very good as far as talking about what it takes to be creative and how to solve creative issues, right? And his thing was that he was just able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and learning how to sit with a problem and not just look for the easiest answer, right? Because we hate problems in our lives. We don't like having something that's not solved, right? For instance, my wife and I were just watching that show Silo, the one on Apple TV, and we just finished watching the season 2 finale, and we were like, they left us on a cliffhanger. No,
oh no.
You know, like, I need closure. Like, we don't like having problems that aren't solved, and you have to be comfortable with that for a little while. You have to be able to put yourself in a place where you can not have it be so precious in your mind that it stunts your ability to think about the issue.
Well, it's funny, like your approach is similar to mine, but I take a slightly different approach. For me, it's more of like, you say ponder, I say make a mess, and I'll clean it up later. You know what I mean? Like, so that's typically what I do when I'm being creative. It's like my mind tells me I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to draw, and so I just start going. I just start something. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna draw, a face or a dragon or whatever. And then I take that and I go, well, it's not quite good enough. And then I just keep building on that, and I mean, like, think about what we're doing here with what you're doing here with this storyboard. I mean, the first thing you drew was a face, and then you're like, all right, how can I like take this and go with it, take it further. I mean, we had the concept that came in from chat, but the first thing you drew is a face, and then you keep going, and now you have a character design, and we could keep going with this all day, and keep building on what we already have. So yeah, I kind of do this, like, I make a mess and then I make it better,
Yeah.
And,
no, yeah, that's we've talked about the idea of the vomit pass here on the show before.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, bleh, and you just let everything in the shortest form possible, and only you are going to recognize the shorthand of drawing that you're doing. Like,
yeah,
you just like barf it out onto the page, and
fix it later.
You figure it out later. You put it, you organize it. I think that's the proper thing to say, is that you're organizing it later.
Yeah. And also, don't be afraid to share stuff with other people around you, who, if you live with somebody or you have a friend that, even if they're not like into animation or anything, typically you could show somebody else something that you've been working on and just ask for an honest critique, and don't take it the wrong way. Just say, like, what do you think? Is this clear? Like, sometimes you'll do something and you're like, it makes so much sense to you from like your own perspective. And then you show it to somebody and they're like, wait, what about that horse? That horse that ran, and then you're like, wait, that there was no horse. Like, what are you talking about? And you don't even realize that you drew something that, like, it doesn't communicate well, and you need somebody, even not necessarily another artist, just somebody that looks at it and they'll kind of like bring some sense to you and say, oh, okay, I didn't get that. I didn't see that. And it'll open your eyes to what you need to work on. So showing it to somebody is I find that very helpful.
I think it's even more helpful to sometimes show it to a person who's not an artist, because
right.
They're going to be more in line a lot of the time with your audience. Like, they're going to be able to parse through that in a different way, and they're not thinking about it in, oh, I'm a board artist and I'm showing it to another board artist, and we both speak the same board language.
Right.
It's like, this has to be translated into common speech.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So I think that's a really something that we all need to kind of think about in a lot of ways, is how can we communicate in a way that's clear for not just us and not just people who think like us, but for people that are going to be sort of like the end users of this story,
Yeah, people that have no. You should be able to show it to somebody that's never even watched an animated production and see what they think, because that's really what we want to do. We want to get people that are not necessarily involved in animation to become viewers, So you get just anybody you can think of from society. If you could get their attention, then you've got something that's going to be successful.
Yeah.
Like your postman. Like, if you're going to get the person that delivers the mail to be interested in animation, if you could get the person that works at, McDonald's, or the truck drivers, or the, teachers, if you could get all these different people to be interested, then you've got a big product
Yeah.
on your hands. You've got something that's going to be really successful. Instead of just like, oh, this is specifically for this niche artist that, you know, this one style that's very, very extremely unique. That, I mean, this stuff, I love unique art, but
Well,
the
there's
more
an
obscure
audience.
you get,
There's an audience for about anything that you can think of.
mm-hmm.
You'll find an audience for almost anything, right? You know, barring stuff that's terrible, like you know, the heavier crime type things. But
Are you talking about like
I
mature
feel like
audiences or something?
if there's something that you're into, some sort of like, you know, I don't know, cutesy chibi thing, or some sort of you know, hardcore you know, gritty grim dark fantasy like Warhammer or whatever, one of those type things, you're gonna find an audience for that kind of thing, right?
That's true.
And
Yeah, that's true.
so you just have to make it the best you can make it, and cultivate that audience, right? Like if you're thinking that you have some creative vision that you want to get out there, chances are there's going to be somebody out there that's going to think it's super cool, you know. And I think that's
True. It is true.
a more of an impetus for people to do their own kind of work.
Yeah. I think both approaches are good. It really kind of depends on what kind of an artist you are, you know?
Yeah,
It's
true.
like there's a lot of successful indie artists, you know, and there's also a lot of successful artists that are kind of like a corporate artist. I'm a little of both personally. I do my own stuff on the side, and I also just do the work that, you know, the companies need done, you know. And
well, I mean, you've got a family that you're supporting, so you know,
yeah,
that sort of economics play into it as well. Like, you know, I've
yeah,
got to make a certain amount of money to make this worth my time as a living, because that's what I do for a living, you know. So there's that aspect, the economic aspect of it too, you know.
I'm just realizing like what you're doing with this shot, and it's blown my mind. I thought you were just doing this little sketch off to the side, but you're actually gonna I don't know, maybe I don't want to spoil it, but it looks like he's jumping down, and then you're gonna track with the arrow that is being shot off to the side. That's gonna be wild, man.
So yeah, we've got this shot that we're working on right now where, you know, he's been running through and jumps down a cavern and then gets ready and shoots not one but two arrows. You know, with action stuff, we tend to have a lot like looser drawings, because all of that stuff it's very drawing intensive.
Well, it'll fly by too. It's only on screen for a split second. Why not make it 3 arrows, Mike? Come on.
Because there's only 2 guards right here, dude.
How about 6 guards?
How about shut up?
Hey, I really like that sequence you did. You did this sequence in Future Worm where there was these like fish army guys. I forget what it was, but it was these fish guys that were like, there was this huge mob of them, and you like did this copy paste thing, which worked perfectly for what it was, and they were all marching together. It looked so cool. Anyways, and then there was this big blaster mount battle with lasers and stuff. All right, we got Julio is I have to pay some attention to chat here. Let's see. A few things. So I'll just read them up. Julio says, I wanted to say, when I draw storyboard or sketches, my rendering is a concern. I think it is smart to be aware about drawing for storyboard. Does compare or contrast with drawing fine art. It sounds like, yeah, talking about rendering, not well. It depends on what type of story. I know some video games do it a lot more, but also we'll touch on that. But also, I like to draw or render excessively when drawing for sketches or storyboard. I like rendering, but does it become a problem when I should complete the work within a due date?
Yes,
This was my thought.
that will become a problem.
Yeah.
You're right in assuming that will become a problem because due dates are important, and obviously sometimes there's going to be extenuating circumstances, right? So I started my own company back in July, last July, and we've been dealing with that very thing, deadlines and such, and making sure that we organize ourselves in such a way that we're able to meet those deadlines. And at least, in this last one, we went over by a couple of days, and sometimes a couple of days can make all the difference with whether a project is well received by a client. So, you try not to skimp on quality because quality is super important. But at the same time, sometimes you just need to get the job done.
Yeah.
And so you can't be like I've been saying before, like you can't be super precious with the way that things go sometimes. You just have to make sure that it's clear enough to really have that communication right there.
One way that it can be looked at is if you're rendering your drawings, then they're going to take a lot longer. And in terms of storyboarding, it's generally, it's always sequential. It's sequential art. So rendering one image, if you look at like the math behind it, you could render one image, or you could draw two images that are not rendered. Or maybe you could draw three images that are loose and not rendered. So the way I see it is I would do all the drawings very loose that I need to do in terms of the whole entire story, and then go back and make them a little bit cleaner. Maybe you could render on the eyes or something, just a tiny bit to like show emotion or something, or draw the hands a little better. And then if you're still feeling like going back and doing more, you could always go back and do all the drawings again. So you do like passes. You do passes on the board.
Yeah.
Like what Mike is doing right now is like, this is like what I would think of a thumbnail pass, or or even rough. Sometimes it's even more scribbly, Mike's drawings are actually very clear. You could even do them more scribbly. So you could use scribbles to tell a story. And if you're focusing on rendering, it's going to really slow down the process. And it's also going to make it so that way you're not focused on things like shot selection or, composition and all these kinds of traditional like staples of storyboarding, where you could work all that stuff out first and then go back and you could play with rendering. So that is what you say. This is what I thought after Mr. Aaron Paetz commented about drawing to convey a style. Like if you're focused too much on one part of drawing, one way of drawing, like rendering, then it's going to make it hard to focus on a lot of other things to learn. Because in the world of drawing, there is a lot of things to learn, there's books, there's almost encyclopedias about it. You could learn anatomy, you could learn lighting, you could learn composition, shot selection, camera focal length. There is a lot when it comes. So if you're only focused on rendering, then it's going to make it hard to progress as a board artist.
Well, you just need to make sure that you put everything in place. Like if you can have a beautifully rendered storyboard, but if you don't have all the elements in place, if it's not completed, at least in some way, shape, or form, then you're doing your client a disservice because you're not giving them exactly what they need, and which is the story. You're not giving them the story that they've asked for or that they've hired you to do. So that becomes then an issue that you have to rectify.
Yeah. Mike, I really want to see these mushroom guys get hit by those arrows.
You're gonna get creamed, right?
We got like about 15 minutes left, so this is
It's getting there. We're getting
it's
getting crunchy, right?
I don't want to pressure you, but I want to see those mushroom guys. I can't even talk. I'm too excited. I want to see these mushroom guys get hit by these arrows. But yeah, we're getting there. It's such a cool shot you came up with.
It's coming down, and then let's add another keyframe right here. And so these.
Can you expand your timeline a little bit so I could see more of what's the stuff? I mean, pull that bar up so I could see more of it. I mean, not to slow you down much. Yeah, just a little bit. So everybody could see what you're doing down there.
So it's
timeline view.
Here we go. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
So we can take this even and move it just slightly. So we have a shot kind of come down like that. Maybe even take the B camera and make it just a little bit smaller and have it like be a nice gentle camera move. And then we're gonna get another camera and put one right here, which is going to follow these arrows. So we got shoosh, woo.
So for chat, you can see he's doing the camera work. It's in this little bar that's above all his drawings, all his panels. And it makes it very easy to do a whole scene as almost like a flat drawing. Like it's not like you're drawing inside of a box all the time. You could do this whole scene played out, and then you move the camera to. It's almost like you're filming what you drew.
Yeah, so I think we could even get rid of this right here, and just have it be, shot, arrows follow, and then we even need to maybe even put the camera right in front of here so we follow the arrows a little bit more closely. And then we're going to cut to this sort of rocky outcropping right here into guards, they're mushroomy kind of look, no faces. And then all of a sudden, arrows bursting through.
From behind? Oh my gosh, that's brutal. So brutal. And it could still be for kids because they're just mushrooms, right?
Yeah, we're not breaking any of the rules.
S&P.
No, I think S&P might have a problem with that, but again, if you're doing your own stuff and you're an independent creator, nobody cares.
But it's funny, and there is that whole thing about like, oh, if you make it robots, then you could chop their heads off.
Yeah, well, that was the Samurai Jack. That was
right, just make them robots. You could be brutal if they're robots.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that they were robots was because, you see a stark contrast between the first 4 seasons of Samurai Jack and then that 5th season that nobody expected, right? Because
was that recently? That was recent.
Like other characters and stuff at that point that they could do. So because it was on Adult Swim instead of standard Cartoon Network.
Right. I got a couple more comments here before as we wind down. Chaco and Jumanji. I want a pencil tool that I can use between Storyboard Pro and InHarmony, a vector pencil. where can I get more pencils? Do you
Uh,
know about working between Storyboard
yeah, I
Pro
mean
and
they're
Harmony?
cross compatible. They're just XML files. They are cross compatible, but you're probably gonna have to build it, my friend.
Yeah, if you want a specialty one, you might be surprised at what you can do with just a simple pencil though. Like Mike is using a very basic brush to tell a very big story. And a lot of the best animation that you've ever seen, even, with traditional animation, you look at the cleanup, it's just this it's a finest little line, used for a cleanup line. It's basically just something to hold the color in, it's just something there to like hold the reds and the blues and the greens and kind of like be a placeholder. Uh, but you can do a lot with just a basic pencil brush. But of course, there is always custom brushes, and I've personally made some of my favorite brushes ever in Toon Boom. I mean, it's got a very advanced brush engine, and you just kind of like I think you just double click them, or you go to that little like box above the pencil menu, and you could modify all of them all you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on to the Toon Boom Learning Portal, it'll show you all the stuff about making your own brushes, and it's worth it. It's worth putting a little bit of time and effort into it because, again, that's going to increase your productivity, which is going to increase your efficiency, which is going to increase your output, which in turn will make you a more effective board artist.
Do you ever do this, Mike? I have this problem where I sit down and I just play with brushes forever. I want to try all the different brushes, and I just like mess with them and I tweak them and everything. And I do this for a whole night, one night, and then I just go back to using the same brush I always used. Like, oh, that was so cool. Made all these awesome brushes, and then I'm like, oh, where's my like thin black line? I find
Because
myself doing that all the time.
You've developed your process, right?
Yeah.
You developed your process, and you don't necessarily need more than that outside of specialized circumstances.
Yeah. But they're fun. It's fun to play with, and if you're especially if you're just starting out, you could really choose a way of doing things that maybe it's very original, Like texture brushes are so cool, but I still only use them once in a while.
Well, because a lot of the time, either you don't need them, or they will slow things down if you get them too heavy.
Yeah. Let's see.
Awesome.
We're getting some more comments in here. Ricky Charms. I love seeing the artist process. There's so much to observe and learn. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome, Mike. Mike's saying you're welcome in his head. He's just so focused on getting
It's our
this
pleasure,
deadline.
dude. Really, this show more than anything is a labor of love. And I'm so grateful that we're able to still be doing this after so long doing Collaboratory, because it really is something that we believe in, and that helping people get to that next level with their storyboarding is it's very rewarding. So thanks for showing up and being here with us, because you guys make the show happen. This audience, or this show runs on audience suggestion, right? So without an audience,
Yep.
what suggestions are we gonna get? Nothing.
Hey, so we're running out of time, Mike. We're gonna need you to play the animatic. Also, one of the last comments here. Olivia Draw says, "Aaron, I'll buy your brushes," which is so inspirational. But I'll tell you, Olivia, if you just reach out to me, I'll send you some brushes on the house. No biggie. You can find my website, I think, there must be some kind of like link in the description or something like that. Or just look me up, Aaron Paetz. On the internet, just Google me. You'll find something, I'm sure. But yeah, Mike, we got to see that animatic soon. We got 6 minutes left.
Yep.
You can't work all weekend on this.
No. Okay, I think we need something though. Just sort of cap this off.
I should turn on some really tense music. It's like always when you're in like the final stretch of your storyboard and you're crushing, you have a deadline looking over your shoulders, you got to turn on like some epic soundtrack music and just totally go into the zone for, 8 hours. Well, you just sweat bullets all day and miss your lunch.
Yep. That's the thing. So we are gonna put a little camera move on this. So beginning and end. Give it a little bit of room to breathe in the front. And then we're going to duplicate that layer. Normally, we don't want to necessarily duplicate the keyframes with it, but that's all right in this case. And I'll just bring this out a little bit. We have the girl being overrun by the spores as some crazy myconid, villain is introducing more spores into this, covered in fungus thing that's being perpetrated on the,
Yeah.
Who knows who this person is, whether it's a relative. I'll let you guys decide who this woman is, whether it's a daughter or if it's some townswoman or something that's being put upon by these mushroom.
It's kind of like the traditional storyline of a dragon with their little princess captive or whatever, but this one's a hunter with a myconid monster and the captive some kind of princess.
Yeah.
All right, couple more comments here. We got a lot of thank yous coming in. Nina Sproule says, thank you so much for drawing my prompt. What a pleasure to see. Delaire Doyle says, my animation class said, you guys are amazing. Thank you. Also, my animation class just walked in and they're so in tune. Awesome.
Well, we have this stream every month, so tell your animation class, come back next month.
That's right. And hopefully I'll make it back by next year. Woo woo.
Yeah.
So also, this is for Olivia, who was saying you'll buy my brushes. If you want to get a hold of me, just go onto my website, aaronpaetz.squarespace.com. There you can find storyboard samples of mine. You can find my paintings, my sketchbook samples, and it has my email under the contact tab. And if you reach out to me there, I'll send you some brushes for Toon Boom for sure. And that goes for everybody. I don't mind. I'll share. All right, Mike, we got 2 minutes. You got to show us.
All right. I'm almost done.
I don't care if we go over, but I don't know if that's going to work.
I'm sure
it might be like
a little bit.
Might just automatically just go, the screen might just go black. This is the reality of storyboarding for everybody watching. You'll just be, your palms will be sweating on the last minute until they finally just say, "Hey, no, seriously, it's over. You're done. Give me the board."
Yeah, time to turn it in. Put it on the server now. Yeah.
That's it. And then the editor's got it, and you're still sending drawings like, "Could you add this one?"
Yeah. Hopefully you're good friends with the editor, so he's like, "All right, man." You know.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like somebody already logged on to my website. Ricky Charms is saying, "The samples on your website are amazing, Aaron. Love the dragons." Well, thank you. I hope you like them. Those are just for fun. I draw just for fun a lot.
All right, then we need one more image. One more image of
Hunter, let me guess.
We'll do an image of the damsel being rescued.
It could be like the still victory painting, you know?
Yeah. He's got her like wrapped up in his cloak as he's taking her out of this terrible area. She's been rescued.
It's a good one. This is a good one, Mike. I like this one.
Rescued from the Underdark back into somewhere where trees exist.
Yeah.
So you can see, like, if we had more time, we could do something a little more gritty and cool. But this is gonna do the job at the moment. Okay, so we have to go into camera view to really tell us. We didn't do this last time in camera view, and we should have, and that's the right way to do it. So we have this person that comes down all grim and ready for something to go down. And he looks around and sees something. Grappling hook out, swing over this spore-infested place. Comes down, boom, lands, and starts going down the tunnel into the belly of the beast. He readies himself, gets out his bow, knocks a couple of arrows, jumps down into this further, and bam! Two guards gone, dusted. And he comes out and gets ready, looking to see what is going on in this room as he goes, and oh no! This young woman is being covered in these like weird spores and stuff, and coming out is this sort of mushroom shaman type as he starts to raise his hands and cast some sort of wicked spell. But before he can get a chance, thunk! Ugh. He doesn't really make a sound because they don't really make a sound, but the gross squishiness of this slimy creature, he slops to the ground, thunk, and then we get a closing image of this ranger who has done his job and has stalked in the gloom, and now is coming forth victorious, having rescued this innocent person from the clutches of evil.
Awesome.
All right.
Yay. So cool. I love it, Mike. All right. Mike, thank you for joining us once again for Collaboratory. Do you have any other topics or projects that you would like to draw our attention to?
Yes, there's two things that I would love to draw your attention to. Okay. So many of you have, seen the show Arcane on Netflix, but I don't know how many of you are familiar with the production studio behind it called Fortiche. They are a French studio, and in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be finding myself in Paris, France at the IAMAG Masterclass. So iamag.co is a website that has a lot of really great resources for artists, and it's AI free. There's a community that's very active, so check them out. But they have digital online tickets for those who can't make it out to the show, and Fortiche is going to do an exclusive behind the scenes look at Arcane. So get your tickets. There's a link that you guys can follow that's posted. The other thing is that Aaron and I are both going to be at Comic-Con Revolution, Ontario. For those of you who are in Southern California, come out to Ontario Convention Center. And we're not talking about Ontario, Canada. We're talking about Ontario, California. So it's going to be happening in May. I think it's like the second or third weekend in May?
It must be around that.
May 17th and 18th. But check out the website. It's also a link. And come out and see us. We're going to have a booth. And we're going to be doing some animation paneling. Some panel discussions about storyboards and about independent animation. And lots of cool stuff. So it's a great show. Come on out.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you to everyone who joined us for Collaboratory. If Mike Morris could draw a hunter saving a princess from the Underdark with the Myconid monsters in 90 minutes, think about what you can draw in 3 weeks. You could download a 21-day trial of Storyboard Pro from our website at toonboom.com and find free video tutorials at learn.toonboom.com. And if you're looking for more interviews, be sure to visit blog.toonboom.com for articles about storyboarding, animation, and 2D games. Until next time.
All right, everybody. Keep drawing.
Yes. Adios. Looks like we get to stay on, Mike. Yeah.